Hey everybody, I am driving in my car right now, but I wanted to record a video and chat with you all about some of your responses that I read to the question that I asked you on the Google Classroom. And I just wanted to say, you guys brought up some really interesting points and some very fascinating things that I think we can talk about and include in our conversation throughout the year. And also wanted to talk to you a little bit today about where I want your mindset to be at for this first week. What I want you to prepare for throughout the school year and how I think you need to do that. What type of, what type of mental just strategies you should use to think like a scientist, to, think about how you can best succeed in the type of classroom that we'll be having this year. And so what we're going to do today is yes, I will talk about some of your responses, and don't worry, I won't call anyone out or embarrass anyone with what they wrote, but no one should be that way, because I really thought you guys did a good job with that. It was just a tiny little response. I didn't want a whole lot, and even in those small responses, you guys said some really valid things that I think are worthwhile to mention. But basically, in this video, I just want to have a conversation with you guys, and I wish we could chat back and forth. And I'm looking into ways to make that happen, maybe. But for right now, it'll just be sort of a one-way conversation from me to you. But one of the things that I talked with my regular class with today was, okay, well, what does it take to be a good scientist, and what does it even mean to be a scientist in the first place? And we went through this sort of mental activity where we built an archetype of a scientist. Now, that word archetype is basically a word that describes the perfect example of something. Oftentimes you'll hear that word when people are talking about literature. Maybe what is the perfect hero like, or what is like the perfect villain like? And there are all these qualities that people name. And so in our class today, and what I would like you guys to think about is, what are some qualities of the perfect scientist? What must they be like? How do they think? What are some of the things that they do? And how does that affect their work? And so I want to talk to you guys today about some of the ideas that we came up with in our in-person class, but I would also love to hear from you if you don't hear in this conversation some of the things that you think would be great to include with that archetype scientist. Some of the things that were said, were I think the things that a lot of you guys are thinking. You think scientist and you think intelligent, right? Someone that's smart, someone that likes to learn. Their mind is, constantly looking for something to fulfill that curiosity. And scientists definitely are very curious people. They are oftentimes very intelligent. And intelligence and being smart, I believe that's something, guys, that curiosity can grow. You can, just like any other muscle in your body, if you're working out, if you're taking care of yourself, you get stronger. Your mind is the same way. The more that you work on problems, the more you read, the more you challenge yourself, the stronger your brain becomes. And so I think some people, they have this really low image of themselves, and they think, oh, I'm not a smart person, so I shouldn't even attempt to do this, or I'm not capable of that. And that's one of the most dangerous things that a person can do, because there's always the ability to grow. No matter who you are, where you are, what you're capable of, you can always get better, right? You can always get a little bit better and add to your abilities. So that was a great point that people brought up. Not just that scientists are often intelligent, but that they are eager to learn. They're eager to learn. Another thing that people said, and I thought this was fantastic, was that scientists, they are experienced. They have experience. And so what does that mean to say the perfect scientist has experience? And I think the best way to think about that is to think about what a scientist must go through constantly, every day, trial and error, trying something and failing constantly. Science is a lot about failing. It's a lot about not finding the right answers. Sometimes scientists will work their whole lives on one problem and never find the answer. Does that mean that scientist was a failure? Does that mean that scientists did not contribute to society in some way? And I think that it's actually a very key component of science to fail. This adds to your experience. It adds to your knowledge about a topic, a subject. We have so many things in this world today that were discovered based on trial and error. Even think about too, some of the things that you remember the best, some of the best things that you experienced as far as learning how to do something were because you failed at it. The example I used today in class was riding a bike. You probably remember the first few times you tried to ride a bike and you failed. And that pain created a very real and strong memory in your mind. And you not wanting to experience that again, that failure kind of pushed you along and helped you achieve those things. And it's kind of a similar thing for scientists, but even with failure, scientists, that's not something to them that they are ashamed of, because for them, really finding the truth and finding the answers to problems that we have in this world are all about eliminating some of the things some of the possibilities. And so hopefully they'll arrive at maybe a few possible choices after all of those possibilities have been eliminated. And experience also means that you have familiarity with that topic that you choose to study, or you have familiarity with what you need to do to accomplish something. And I asked my class, and I'll ask you guys, and I'll take a second for you to think about this, but one of the things that I asked them was, do you think that scientists are really conceited? They only think they need themselves to achieve things. Do you think scientists only rely on what they know, only rely on their own abilities? Or do you think that scientists reach out to other scientists? Do they read the works or watch videos or read a book about studies, about things that scientists have done in the past? And if you think about this question and you do a little bit of research into some of the most successful scientists, you'll find that the most successful scientists are the ones that look into the past. They're the ones that reach out to their colleagues. Colleagues, those are people that you work with in the same sort of area of study. They reach out and they read and they use what is available to them, the collective knowledge from the past and the present, to formulate their own ideas and to help them become better at what they do. One of the best examples of this, and someone that states it the most clearly, this was said by a scientist a good bit ago. His name was Sir Isaac Newton. You probably have heard of Sir Isaac Newton as the guy who helped us understand what gravity actually is, right? The story is that an apple fell on his head and got him thinking about gravity. And while that story might not be completely true, there's no doubt that Sir Isaac Newton was an incredibly intelligent person, and he was a very good scientist. He's actually, for a lot of people that study his work, he's actually just as well known, or if not more well known, for his study of light, so the study of optics. And he said something really interesting that I think helps us understand how scientists should think. He said, the only reason why I can see as far as I can see is because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. What do you guys think he means by that? What do you think he means by that? I'll repeat it. And this isn't word for word. Like I said, I'm driving, so I can't exactly read the quote word for word. But if you're with your parents, you guys can find this quote pretty easily. And if you want to know the exact wording of the quote, definitely look it up. But again, basically he said, the only reason why I can see as far as I can see is because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. Now, do you think he literally means that he's talking about actually seeing things and there's some giants in his neighborhood and he's got a ladder and he's climbing up there and he's getting on their shoulders and he's like, oh wow, you guys are tall. I can see really far distance. I can see a really far distance away. Do you think that's actually what he means, or is this metaphoric? What does he mean? Well, I think that Sir Isaac Newton is actually talking about how we only have achieved what we have achieved because of all the people in the past that have been working towards that same goal. They've been adding their knowledge, and the people after them add their knowledge, and the people after them add their knowledge. And every time knowledge is added, we can explore that unknown a little bit more. That unknown becomes a bit more known. Science is all about mysteries. It's all about those regions of darkness, right? These places that seem like we lack understanding of. And I can just imagine, this metaphor is very powerful to me because I can see Sir Isaac Newton in my head sort of like, I can understand what he means. He's looking off into those dark regions, being those places, those things, those ideas, those topics and subjects, those things that we still don't know a lot about. And he's not looking behind him. He's acknowledging the past by acknowledging the people that have come before him and all the work that's been done. But his sight is not set on what has already been done. His sight is set on the future. His sight is set on progress, on moving forward, peering off as far as he can to the edge of what we know. And so I really like that quote, and I really think that as we prepare for this year in science, that we start thinking like that we need to understand our place in this community of learners, and that we need to appreciate and acknowledge what has come before us, and really start to figure out ways that the people that come before us, how we can use what they know to make ourselves a better person. All your parents say all the time to listen to them, that they're trying to tell you things to make you better, to make you do the right thing, and that's very true. That's very true. Humans are very special in that we are some of the only things on this planet that are able to pass down information from generation to generation. That's why we're so successful. That's why we have cities and hospitals and all the technological advancements that we have. So Sir Isaac Newton fulfills that quality that I wanted to discuss in The Perfect Scientist. But there's other qualities as well. And you guys are already familiar with the next scientist that I'll be talking about. One of my students said a great quality in The Perfect Scientist is bravery. And that's interesting. Bravery. What does it mean to be brave? Is it brave if you only do things all the time that you're comfortable with, that that you know everything about? Well, remember, one of the things that we've already said is that a scientist, they're working in the unknown regions. They're working oftentimes with materials that we don't necessarily know how affect people. They're working maybe in dangerous areas. They're working, in conditions that might not be the most, safe or humane. a lot of times what's crazy is when you read about scientists and they're trying to study the effects of something, they're so curious that in the past, some of these scientists actually test out like their work on themselves. But sometimes it's not always intentional that happens. And you guys read a quote by Mary Curie, and she basically said, the more that you know, the less that you should fear. Basically, if we sum that quote up, the more you know, the less you should fear. And it's so fascinating that she said that, because this is a person that actually died from doing what she loved. She died because of what she was working with. Yet, she said, we shouldn't fear what we don't know. We should just learn about it. Now, do you think that she meant that she wasn't afraid of anything? That she was so smart that whatever problems she got in, she could get out of because she was just so super smart? Or do you think what she was saying was actually a bit more of a humble statement, more of a sacrificial statement? Because she knew that she was working. She might not have known exactly what she was working with, exactly what it would do to her, but she knew it was dangerous. So do you think she was saying that in terms of, as a society, as a group of people, the accomplishments and the bravery of a few to do those things for a greater good as a society can help us eliminate things that we fear? And I do think that's what she meant. And the reason why is because, well, first of all, I hope some of you went and explored that biography link that I sent. She worked with radioactive materials. And a radioactive element is an element that goes through decay. Now, all elements over time will decay. And when an element decays, basically it's losing some of its material. And over time, it will transform into a different element. But the elements of our universe have a lot of energy stored in them. Think about this. If you take just one atom and you split it, this is how the sun works. That's the energy from the sun. So when you look up into the sky and you see this bright ball of energy, that's basically from atoms being separated, and that's the energy that's released. And some more scary examples would be like the atomic bomb. So if you've ever learned about World War II, that comes from releasing energy in an atom. So over time, atoms will naturally decay, and they'll kind of lose some of their energy. Those atoms that do this rapidly are called radioactive elements. And Mary Curie, she worked with radioactive materials. And so what happens with those materials that she was working with is, as they release energy, the energy that they release is a high form of energy. It's a high frequency form of energy. Now, we live in a world around us that has lots of different types of energy that's really safe for us. For instance, you're listening to me right now. Sound is a form of energy. It travels in a wave, but it's not dangerous at all. It doesn't affect us. It doesn't hurt us. Light that we can see, the electromagnetic spectrum, which we'll talk about eventually. But light is also another form of energy. It's not very harmful to us, right? But there are some forms of energy that we can't see, like X-rays and gamma rays. These are very powerful forms of energy, and radiation and high forms of energy are released from some of these radioactive materials. And Mary Curie, over a long period of time of working with these materials, she eventually did die from them. What happens is that this energy, when it hits, your body, when it hits a cell, and your body is made up of trillions of cells, and inside of each cell, you have something called DNA and RNA. And this is kind of like the instruction booklet to your body. It tells your cells how to rebuild and replace damaged or old cells. So like if you buy some furniture, it has the instruction booklet in it that you read to help you put it together. Well, that's what the RNA and DNA in our body, that's what it's really for, to help us rebuild. and build cells in our body. But if it's exposed to those high levels of energy, the instruction booklet gets all jumbled up. And when the cell tries to do its natural process of replace and repair, it does it incorrectly. And so, unfortunately, Mary Curie, she did die from this. But her death actually paved the way for, I mean, who knows, maybe an amount of people that's almost not even countable of lives that have been extended and saved. How many of you, think about it, how many of you have ever, broken an arm or had a sibling or someone that you know break an arm or a leg, and they go to the doctor and they get something called an x-ray, and basically what that is high energy, a form of energy that's used to look past the soft tissue like the skin and the muscles and the fat, straight to the bones of your body. Before we understood what radiation could do, we didn't know we could do things like that. We didn't know we had technology that could achieve those things. But now we do, because of people like Mary Curie and what she did. And she was, she was such a great scientist that she had an element named after her home country of Poland. And she won the Nobel Prize. One of you wrote in your comments that this was an example of her being brave, just being a woman at that time. And one of the first women to win a Nobel Prize, and one of the first women to go to a university in France. And, at that time, it was probably hard for her to get respect. But she did it. She wasn't afraid. And that in itself is bravery. And one of you mentioned that, and it's something that I hadn't even thought about, honestly. So that was very insightful that you wrote that. So it's been about 20 minutes now, guys. I'm not going to make you watch too much more of this. I do have some other things I'd like to share with you and talk about. I'll probably do a video 2 at some point, and we'll continue to discuss our archetype scientists. I definitely want to talk about a few more characteristics that I think we can add. In fact, I'll probably, on my way back to my house, go ahead and record part 2. It will be maybe a little bit shorter, but I think it's important that you guys just hear from me and hear me discuss some of the things that I think are fascinating and interesting. Like I said, we'll still have some keynotes and things like that you can look at on the Google Classroom. But this week is all about getting our minds in the right place. So I will post this. This will be up. Well, when you watch it, it's today for me. It'll be tomorrow for you. So check it out. I want to hear back from you. I want to hear your ideas, your thoughts. Like I said, not everything that I say, I'm not saying this is required that I hear your thoughts. It's required that you go write an essay. No, I like to hear from you guys. That's just like I said just a minute ago about what one of you said about Mary Curie and her bravery. That's something maybe I should have. That definitely should be something that I thought about, but I didn't. I thought that was fantastic. I wish I would have read that before I taught my classes today. I would have definitely included that. So hearing from you is important to me. This is a community. We are a team. We're a family. We're a society where everyone has a role to play. So I'll figure out the best way to do that. I'm still working on some ideas so that I can get your input in an easy, efficient way. And so I'm still trying to work out some of those things. But we're definitely going to get there. I don't want you to be nervous at all about my class. I think that we have an opportunity to have a lot of fun, to learn a lot of interesting facts, and to make this year a great success. So, like I said, you'll probably see this video, and right next to it or below it, you'll see video 2 posted. So you don't have to watch it all in one big chunk. Just watch this one, and then when you get some time, watch the next one. And keep on checking out the Google Classroom for updates and different assignments. This week, this is going to be very light on assignments. I'll probably just have a little chat with you in the afternoons like today. And really that's all I'm going to be requiring of you is just that you kind of tune in and listen and think. That's what I want you to do. I want you to think. I want you to have your own ideas right? Have your own ideas. That's all it's about, guys. Is just my job as a teacher is not to fill your head up with facts and figures and make you into the smartest person that ever existed. My job as a teacher is to make you want to know, to make you curious. I don't want to live in a world where people aren't curious. I want to live in a world where people ask why all the time, which reminds me, we've got a fun sort of scientist that we're going to be talking about that was obsessed with the question why. So tune in for that in this next video. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you guys in just a little bit. Take a break and then check out the next video after you have taken a little break.